Good morning. Why don't we all wait until Roger gets the podcast started?
Good morning. It's so good. It's so good to see you folks today.
Weren't you just wearing that shirt the other day?
I do wear shirts more than once. It's true.
It's true. Roger and I were both in orange shirts on Sunday, and it looked a little freaky. We were literally the just duet.
Well, that was part of my thought today was if I wear this orange shirt, Bruce is, I'm pretty certain, not going to be wearing an orange shirt today. So
no,
we were not going to have that awkward moment of, by the way, it's one of those reasons why I can really rarely wear the Superman shirt out, because the chances of you running into somebody else wearing a Superman shirt, which is pretty good, which just creates an awkward sort of power struggle immediately. No, I'm Superman.
I've never actually seen anyone else in a Superman shirt, but it's good to know that they're out there.
Oh, they're out there. And when you're wearing one, you notice other ones.
Right. It's the Nissan Stanza syndrome.
Exactly.
So Zach and I, Sunday morning, went out to Georgia to pick up a 1992 Toyota pickup, just something he can drive back and forth from work.
Right.
And on the way out there, we saw like 16 1992 Toyota pickups. And I'm like,
no, it's what you do.
That's crazy.
Right.
All of a sudden, you start noticing them as you're
right.
So we're back this week. We're gone next week because Saturday, Roger, I leave for the Holy Land.
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
Now, seriously, what are the emotions of it? Because it's a very different kind of trip. You've done these hikes.
Yeah.
So I mean,
this isn't a hike.
That's your lane. And
are you saying I'm getting out of my lane?
I'm saying one of the things I'm curious to talk to you about when you get back.
Yep.
Your learnings from a very different kind of trip than you've done before.
Yeah, the similarities are I'm using an international guide. His name is, surprisingly, Israel. So I mean, we're going to Israel, and our guide is Israel. So far, I'm like, we're running 100% on this one. So there's a couple things that make it. So I've never been to the Holy Land, but there's only 7 of us, so that's a little easier because you're not trying to manage 20 people.
And it's a great first trip for you to learn for your next Holy Land.
Because we did find out, because people are asking, hey, can we be baptized by you in the Jordan River? And I said, let me check. And we found out, yes, we can. Israel will actually take the because we're with a larger group, like 30 people. He'll take the rest of the group on, and we can do a baptism ceremony right there. And they've got like towels and lockers and stuff. I'm like, that's perfect. I will not be surprised if someone else in the larger group wants to be baptized at the same time. Mm-hmm. They might say, hey, we're going to stay back with this group. But yeah, I'm interested. It's so every day you have an air-conditioned giant bus that takes you to the Mount of Olives or Bethsaida, or like we start out the first night in Tel Aviv. So we fly in at 9:15 that morning, and it looks like it's kind of a rest day, which is good because you've been flying overnight. It's a 13-hour flight.
Always a good
13 to 14-hour flight, depending on, I guess, the jet stream. But and then we move. So then the next 2 days, we're actually on the Sea of Galilee. And then we have 4 days in the city of Jerusalem. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So if it was a big group, I'd probably a little more, I'm probably a little stressed about it because that's a lot of people to manage. Mm-hmm. But what I love about smaller groups is I get a lot more one-on-one time with each person, which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to doing the teachings of Jesus at each of these spots. So I don't know that I'll have time at the spots since we're with a larger group. So I told our team, I said, hey, about 30 minutes before pickup, I'm going to meet us in the lobby. I'm going to actually call the hotel, see if I can get some kind of little room for us, just where I can do some teaching of Jesus. Like the day that we're going to be at the Mount of Olives, the Olivet Discourse, when we're at the Mount of Beatitudes, I might teach the Beatitudes or another part of the Sermon on the Mount. So I'm looking forward to, and I've been praying about, all right, so for these 7 days, what are the unique things that I'll teach in each? Because like even in Tel Aviv coming in there, I think that's close to where Joppa was.
Okay.
Which will be some interesting teaching about Peter and Simon the Tanner and Cornelius and all of that stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. So I basically took off counseling work this week so that I could prepare for that trip and then finish. We moved into the cottage a couple of weeks ago, and I got the kitchen finished yesterday. All the butcher block is in. All the cabinets are in. The sink is in.
Ah.
The dishwasher works. The refrigerator works. The ice maker works. It's great. It's pretty exciting, actually.
Well, yes.
It's a big deal.
Not entirely finished a couple days ago, but it looked very good.
It's very close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on in your world, Raj?
Pretty ordinary day. Although we're doing the Pastords a day earlier than.
Oh, that's right. It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, so
it's the only day I'm in Huntsville this week.
So our large fan base is not aware that we're
tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, today they're anyway.
I'll go ahead and post it today.
Post it today because people are going to be desperate, baby.
So put like in all caps, special edition, 1 day early.
Speaking of desperate,
that is possibly the worst segue in the world. Roger, I'm talking this morning about if they had an improv show called Let's Make a Segue or something, that, where they give you two things that have nothing to do with each other, and you have to segue from one to the other. Who
most creatively segue?
I guarantee you I could do it. I mean, because at Cove Church, I was known as the Segue King. So, and this week, you can't say speaking of. That's the one rule in segue. Let's make a segue.
Right. It's whoever can come
closer. As soon as you say speaking of, there's a buzzer. You just lost the point.
Which reminds me, was it?
Oh, that's a good segue, which reminds me. I like that. See, we do it naturally. We literally can segue all day. Which reminds me to remind you to say the thing that you were reminded of.
Well, now I'm conflicted because I have two things that have suddenly come to mind. Which do I bring up? Bob Barker or our NFL teams?
Well, Bob Barker, I just, for some reason, it popped up in my feed, a reel of Bob Barker and Adam Sandler. Have you seen that?
No.
Bob Barker is like 85. He's in a hospital bed. He's got all these things connected to him. And Adam Sandler comes up to him and just punches him. And then Bob gets up and hits him over the head with a vase and then just starts boom, boom, boom. It's hilarious. I mean, it's in its own right, but it's
own right. I see what you did there.
You said I did. The price is. I don't know how we do it. It's like that's how we roll, people.
Well, there's been some fun with him dying at 99.
Was he really 99?
Yes. And the big wheel they had where who could get closest to the number without going over 100. And people just noting he got as close to
he got as close as you could with going over. He bid 99.
All right, I'll segue then from Bob Barker.
Hey, so the Broncos went 41. They blanked somebody. Los Angeles. There's so many Los Angeles teams now. I don't know which one they beat, but they blanked them. So there's hope in Bronco land.
Except that Russell Wilson didn't have really much of anything to do with the win.
As long as they've got a second team quarterback. Who is our second team quarterback?
I don't even know.
Oh, Jason Stidham.
It's Stidham. Okay.
Wasn't he at Auburn and 4 other schools through the portal?
Well, I know the Patriots drafted him.
Yeah.
Jarrett Stidham, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's Jay.
No, I think he's a pretty decent quarterback.
Well, apparently 41.
So
that was good.
No, I was looking at. So, your favorite team, the Broncos, mine, the Patriots, our sister Holly's, the Titans. Like, there are grim forecasts for all of our teams.
David, Chicago Bears and or Miami Dolphins.
Dolphins having some. Well, So Super Bowl odds to win the Super Bowl. Who do you think has better odds to win the Super Bowl? The Broncos or the Patriots? They're both not great.
I'm going to go with the Patriots since it's your team and you're setting me up with the question.
It's the Broncos.
Really?
By a pretty substantive.
So no one's bought into the Mac Jones thing yet.
Well, I think what people are looking at.
Interesting.
In fact, what's affecting that most is the Patriots division.
Which we play this year.
Right. And we play your division, obviously. So what I'm saying is,
That's right, Captain Obvious. If we're playing your division, then you're playing our division.
I'm telling
See,
you,
we're quick this morning.
I have a gift.
We are
It's
quick.
a gift.
We're sharper than we've ever been.
So I think the reality is, okay, the Patriots have got to play their division twice. You only play us once.
Right.
We got to play their division twice. That, I think, is probably having the biggest impact. But so I think you're plus 4,000 to win the Super Bowl. We're plus 6,000.
That is substantive. Well, I noticed that we start off with an in-division game against the Oakland Raiders. It's like a weird year. And you know what our last game is? Oakland Raiders. So we're starting with the Raiders. We're finishing with the Raiders. But it would be a big one to win. I mean, if you start out 1-0 in your division, that's just you just want to win that division game.
Well, both those teams have huge question marks.
Right.
So you start off with that. Patriots start off with the team with the second best Super Bowl odds, Philadelphia. We open with Philadelphia.
Do you really?
But it's at home.
But they're out of your division and they're not in our division.
Right.
How did you just pick up Philadelphia?
NFC, first game.
Why couldn't you just pick up Chicago Bears or something?
And it's the big Tom Brady game. They're going to have Tom Brady back in for whatever.
I didn't even realize that he had retired. I actually looked it up the other night, and I was like, oh, he retired. He really retired.
It is, yes, he did.
Wow. So, yeah. So what are we here to talk about today, Raj?
Bruce's indication that he doesn't have anything.
No, I was thinking about it on the way in this morning. There's the scripture in Romans 12 that says, rejoice with those that rejoice and mourn with those that mourn, live in harmony with one another. And I was thinking about that on the drive in because I realized merging and exiting and all of this are all about, ideally, they're about harmony. And I was thinking about how not everyone taught their children that when you're merging onto faster moving traffic, you want to actually be accelerating. And I realized that a lot of people don't know that. And so they're braking. So I'm getting to live in harmony with them by braking more. I'm like, I'm flashing my light and they're still braking. And I'm like, well, now if I jettison by them, they're going to so I did the right thing and I just held on.
Entirely.
No, I didn't stop entirely because I'm worried about the traffic behind me. But anyway, but them merging and on they went. It just reminded me how hard it is sometimes to live in harmony with others that do things differently,
that are moving at a different
pace. That, some people, when they exit quickly. Other people, they put their blinker on, but they stay in the lane for a long time. Now the lane's over there. It's just ready. It's inviting them in.
I need you to make a decision, fella.
But what they do is they want to brake as much as they possibly can in the main traffic lane before getting into whatever. And I realized it just reminded me how hard it is sometimes to live in harmony with people because we're so different. We perceive things differently. We drive differently.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. You and I have a frighteningly similar framework when we're driving, the things that we see and notice and pay attention to, rear view, all the drivers behind us, drivers ahead of us, lights that are coming up, bypasses, shortcuts, all the things,
I bet a lot of our listeners didn't know there are shortcuts. Roger goes through parking lots if necessary.
That light up there, I know the sequence of those lights. If I'm going up to a major intersection,
we're going to make a right on this road.
If I know, okay, that lane is going now, I know when that light's going to change. I know anyway.
Well, and a lot of times you can make a quick square, and it's faster than waiting on the light.
Oh, absolutely.
As long as you know the square. Every time I do the square move, though, there's a truck, a giant 18-wheeler that has just pulled into someone's parking area, and they've wedged their truck in an inescapable position. And I'm like, and Marlena just gives me this look.
A car stalls.
I'm like, I was trying to redeem the time. Isn't that what we learned as children? Redeem the time, for the traffic is evil.
No, because and my wife Joy, just her brain doesn't work that. She'll kind of. Why are you taking the shortcut? Why is it important to get and it's just.
Well, I like movement. So if I don't have to stop, that's ideal. I like movement. We were talking about the bold move. I like the bold move. When someone pulls into traffic, just ahead of you. As long as they accelerate and nobody's braking, I'm like, that's awesome.
I applaud you.
Come across traffic, merge into traffic. Just make sure you're accelerating. That's the key.
It's just amazing how many people are decelerating for inexplicable reasons.
Like they pull right across traffic to pull into this gas station, and then they slow down to 2 because they realize there's a little curb there. We're gonna do.
All right, people that slow down, going uphill, brakes lights going on uphill. No place in my brain for that.
Yeah, gravity's working for you right there.
You got a right turn lane, and you've got to turn 2 feet out before you make or you're making a right turn, and you've got to slow down to half a mile an hour to make the turn.
So this is it, Roger. This is why living in harmony with each other, but it's so important. In other words, like in my marriage, that's a verse that comes to mind a lot, which is live in harmony with one another. If I expect Marlena to process life the way that I do, I'm going to be frustrated with her a lot because she just doesn't.
Right.
And at the same time, if she expects me to process life the way she does, she's going to be frustrated a lot. Man, but after 40 years, we give each other room to do those things differently.
Well, we've talked about this before, but it is so critical because it's still at 62 years of age. Though I know this, there's still the pull to moralize differences.
Yes, right.
So again, driving, I can say, and this
was good because you talked about this Sunday.
I've got no place in my brain for someone driving this way. Why would you? But people are different. But then the pull is to moralize it. The pull is to put a spin on that it's a wrong or a
like driving slower than the traffic around you in the left lane. You could argue, well, that's against the law because it's slower traffic.
Well, it is
right. But then you pointed out astutely, but also going over the speed limit is against the law. So somehow in my mind, I rationalize it. Well, my against the lawness is less egregious.
No, the thing is, I'm comfortable with me not paying attention to the laws. I'm not comfortable with other people not paying attention to the laws. I want to be a law to myself.
Well, and isn't that what Jesus charged the Pharisees with? He said, do as they say, but not as they do, for they do not practice what they preach.
No, that is one of the great zingers. I mean, he says, they sit in the seat of Moses, so you have to listen to what they say, but don't listen to what they do. But I would say this. Let's think about that for us. What would Jesus say? Would Jesus say about Roger, don't follow his example.
Right.
Follow his words.
Listen to what he teaches on Facecast and the Inglorious Pastords.
When it comes to driving, when you're watching him not living in harmony with other, don't do what he does.
But even our talk Sunday, though, this is the importance of us having that talk. It changed the way I drove this morning. I was actually driving Zach's truck in because I'm getting it serviced for him since he works 6 days a week. He has it, and the service shop's not open on Sunday, so I'm like, I'll drive it in.
Good for you.
But I decided, okay, I'm just not going to pass anyone today on the 2-lane part. I'm just going to. Well,
what?
Oh, it was a test, Raj. I had a giant truck, and I just let it go. And then there was a guy pulling those trailers that are too big for any vehicle to pull. You know, they're like 12 foot by 12 foot by 12 foot. They're just a giant cube on the back with a bunch of wheels. I didn't pass that. And then
he was pulling in a Yugo.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, at my average speed on the first half of the trip was 45 miles an hour.
Oh, no. Oh,
yeah. Because right after that, right at the 4-way stop, which is 12 minutes from my house.
Yes, I know that stuff.
The truck and the trailer got ahead, and I'm like, this is fine. They'll be gone. And a guy turned right who was pulling a massive, he's just got a truck on it and a trailer, pulling a giant steel girder and a steel plate. It was about 8 feet. I'm like, that must weigh 1 billion pounds. And he showed it. It was... He was going on like uphills. We got down to 40 miles an hour. And I just stayed back there, and
you kept your vow of slowness.
I was praying the Lord's Prayer while I was back there. No, I mean, it was, but it was good because the other thing I realized about driving is I create a lot of stress for myself. It's not that I'm late or that I'm in a hurry to get somewhere. It's really not. I just tend to drive fast, and I don't like to slow down and stop.
Right.
I try to make all the green lights.
All the yellow lights. No, you see yellow.
Yellow light +1.
No. If I'm becoming a light,
Yeah.
yellow means speed up and make it.
Right.
My wife's entirely different.
Oh,
that thing turns yellow at any point.
Yeah, Marlene can be a mile back. It's yellow, she's braking.
Boom. It's
we're shutting it down.
I'm heading towards the light, determine that point at which I can make this if it turns yellow now.
Right. Because the rule of law is if I have entered the intersection as it turns red, I'm still good. This is how I interpret the law from what I've heard on the internet. So I don't know if that's actually true, but I'm going with it.
It's a wonder anyone can live in harmony with us.
Well, think about that. So I've thought about how easy it is for me to look at others and say, gosh, it must be difficult to live with them.
And not imagine anyone is thinking
without giving much thought to, I'm pretty hard to live with. I am a little, because I do process things in a certain way. And I think even for my wife, like, because we're polar opposites, it's really hilarious that we go to marriage conferences and try to help others. But part of the reason we help others is because we're right there with you.
Right.
This is the hardest thing you'll ever do. But like, I travel a lot, and she's a homebody. And so I try to, when I'm home, be home, and be present. And when I had all the real anger days, it was present and pleasant. Be present and pleasant. That was my two things.
When you had your anger days, what do you mean?
Well, when I struggled with a lot more anger than I do now.
Like every day.
I'm less now. Less now, Roger. I don't know.
Tell me about this recovery you've made and when you made it.
I don't know where you've been. Well, I've just learned that instead of, yes, anger is a power emotion. So I process the weaker emotion underneath it. Right now, I feel sad, or I feel disappointed, or I feel confused, whatever it is. And I try to sit in that emotion versus being angry about it. And it really does help, because particularly if you're going to have a conversation with someone about the thing that you find confusing or disappointing or hurtful or whatever it is. But where was that going? There was someplace I was going, and then you interrupted and I lost it. It was,
yes, I've finally derailed Bruce's trying.
I do it to Roger all the time, but I think Roger's trying to live in harmony with me right now. Hey, let's see how Bruce does when I just interject something in the middle of something really important.
Well, you did bring up something that God has tweaked me. It is where is remembering how difficult you can be, and how revolutionary, because I realize it's not even so much like thinking I'm this great person. It's just not thinking of some of the challenges I present in any relationship. Marriage relationship, sure. Friendships, working with people.
I could go on and on about the challenges of being your friend. Sure.
Right. And see, and for me to make a list of the things that are the challenges I pose to others, I have to work at that list, that.
Well, and that
is funny how easy we can.
But isn't it great that Scripture says, so I want you to live in harmony? Harmony is different. If I'm singing the melody and you're harmonizing,
duet,
we're singing the same song, but we're singing in different, is it keys? Potentially.
Well, I don't think you're singing different keys. You're singing is syncing. For some, it is syncing.
No, but syncing as in SY.
NCH,
syncing, yeah.
In sync. Well, and it is very true. The thing that's great about harmony, the thing that's great about that is you need two different notes.
There you go.
I mean, that's the critical thing. So I can think, oh, my notes, this is the killer note.
Right.
This is the best note. You can't have harmony.
This is the right way to sing it.
You can't have harmony. Harmony comes out of two people who are different working together, which produces a beautiful sound. Literally.
It does. And yeah, when I think about keys, yes. So keys is they're singing the same melody line, but one octave above or below, or however many. It's a different key.
Well, not an octave.
Oh boy. I was thinking so.
Because an octave is an
Middle C. Middle C.
But someone, if they're singing an octave above you, is still singing the same note you are. It's just an octave higher. Harmonizing, they may be singing 2 notes above you.
Right.
You're singing the C, they're singing an E anyway. But
oh yeah, so that would be keys. If I'm in middle C and you're in B minor, different notes, different keys.
We can call this Bruce and Raj's ignorance on music.
Our mom's a music teacher. We should be better at this. We should actually know some of this.
We
stuff.
love music. I love harmonizing. But what you're saying is, I realize, like, I do love harmonizing musically. What if I think about that's what God's calling us to do with other people, is find a way, if they're driving this pace, find a way to complementarily drive with them.
Complementarily.
It's a new word.
I like it. We now have 603,000 words in the English language. Complementary means
complementarily.
Complementarily means to adjust in accordance to the difference of another.
Specifically as it relates to driving.
Oh, is that the only place we enforce that? That's the only place we want to practice?
Well, it's where you and I most need it.
It is where we most need it. Here's the other thing I realized about us, just in terms of personality. It's easier for you to harmonize than it is for me. You tend to go your own way more easily than I do. Because like if I'm singing, someone else starts harmonizing, my temptation is to join them.
Okay.
I'm wired that way. That's the people person in me. I'm like, oh, well, they're singing.
Interesting.
They're singing way off. I'll just sing way off with them. It'll be great. Whereas it's much easier for you to hear melody and then pick something below it or above it and just harmonize.
I do it reflexively, because at a certain point, I don't want to sing the same note. I just love harmony.
I tend to wear clothes that are in style based on what's going on the planet in 2023. Roger has his own style.
I'm creating style. You're just caving in to the fashionistas of the world.
When we were moving, I realized we don't need to move any of my jeans. Because I don't wear jeans anymore. I just don't wear jeans. I mean, almost everything I've got is skinny pants that are they're very stylish and they're comfortable because they're lighter than jeans.
I've never worn skinny pants in my life.
No, I can't. And I don't even think it would look right on you.
I don't think it would work on you.
If Roger wore skinny pants, I think it would look like the peanut M&M's commercials.
It would look like you in shorts, which I wear all the time.
Well, it's true. I don't wear. I've worn shorts more in the last 2 weeks than I have probably in a long, just because it's been so dang hot. So I think where we're finishing today, Raj, is
where are we finishing?
Where do you, dear listener and viewer, where do you need to live in harmony with someone? Is it a spouse? Is it a coworker at work? Because this can be a huge challenge.
Yep.
Because at work, and I realize I tend to do things the right way, and others tend to not do the right way.
This is don't do as Bruce just did.
Right.
Once we make our way the right way,
right.
What Bruce calls a little thing he likes to call the right way.
I got that off of Rocket Man.
I like that.
He said, "Let me redo this in a little way I like to call the right way."
But this is the thing: we make our driving way, we make our preferences, we make marriage, whatever. So stop it.
Live in harmony with one another.
And we'll try and follow your example.
So what are we going to sing to finish in harmony?
I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke
and keep it company.
It's the real
Thing.
All right.
There was
Best-
also
Best finisher ever.
that was
Don't say anything else.
no. Zach bought me a bunch of RCs because we live in a very rural area that apparently didn't have Coke. Literally doesn't have Coca-Cola.
RC Cola is what we do
Wait a
around here in
I started
Blountsville.
in my mind singing "Me and my RC, me and my RC."
Oh, I haven't thought about that in ages.
Because what's good enough for other
The
folks ain't good enough for me.
I haven't
Isn't
heard of that in decades.
Wait till you try an RC. It's
All
really
right.
good.
Try an RC.
Try an RC with me.